From pro rugby to life-changing injury, Jacko's story takes a powerful turn. Forced to retire after head trauma, he found healing in breathwork. Now he's on a mission to bring breathwork to athletes everywhere because what he didn't know then could have changed everything. And I did something interesting this episode. I had Jacko teach me a breathwork technique while we were recording. So you're definitely going to hear a lot of clicking noises with my tongue and breathing, and I try to explain what's going on. He's trying to explain what's going on. And this is just an episode that you should also watch on YouTube, probably. It's going to be quite entertaining. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Forged Youth Legacy Within. I am sitting here with Jacko, who I am so honored that he has taken time to be here with us today. I've scoped out Jacko on social media for a while now, and I just absolutely love and appreciate how he goes about teaching the importance and techniques of breath work and recovery. Now, Jacko, you, if I have it correctly, you used to be like quite a pro rugby player, and then there was an injury, and that kind of led to your breath work. Is that right? Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Yeah. So I played professional rugby. I started playing rugby when I was 6 years old,
Wow.
and I retired at 31 from a brain injury. And I guess an important part of the story is that I knew nothing about breathing during that period. And if I was a young player growing up now in that sport or any sport, the opportunity that is there, we're right on the cusp of like this being um, understanding how your breathing influences your nervous system, how you respond under pressure, as well as like your like physical attributes and your ability to recover. How breathing is so influential in those, and it's been overlooked for a very long time. We're on the cusp of that being soon mainstream. Like I
Mhm.
now work with a lot of elite and international athletes and sports teams where they get me in to do this, and I get to share what I wish I knew when I played rugby or
Yeah.
played professional sport. Um, but it's still a little bit of a
Yeah.
secret's too strong a word, but like not, a lot of if you're an elite athlete or you're an international sports team and you feel like you've got a little bit of an edge because you're using something that isn't maybe not everyone's using at the moment, you sort of want to keep that to yourself a bit. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
You're
but
like, this is the edge.
yeah, and the my story of getting I had a brain injury from from a head trauma in training back in 2013, so 12 years ago, um, and over a long period of time. It took me a long time to recover. It took me a long time to get back to some sort of like baseline health and well-being perspective, and get back to. I had to retire, obviously, but get back to my a sort of normal way of living. It took about a year, and during the course of the next few years, me and my wife were just trying to find anything that could help with my brain health because when you've had the type of brain injury I'd had and the repeated concussions I'd had through my career, there's a real risk of like early onset of dementia and cognitive difficulty, as you age.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when we sort of came across a little bit of the science and research on how breathing can really be affected by concussions and your nervous system. So things like HRV, people got like your Garmin watches or your Apple watches, some Whoop bands or these sort of wearable technologies for recovery will report on something called HRV, standing for
Mm.
heart rate variability. And that is often like super low post brain injury if someone's like, finding it difficult to get back to normality. Because there's this link between breathing and the nervous system, um, I found that even though I'd got back to a level of like a doctor would have said, I'm okay now, like you're fine now. Like my typical symptoms of like sensitive to light, fatigue, headaches, nausea, all those types of typical like concussion symptoms, obviously like had subsided for a long time. But I wasn't able to. I was a bit of a roller coaster emotionally, and I wasn't able to like manage stress. My resilience to stress was, yeah, really. an all-time low. And it's interesting, my wife probably is able to reflect back on that more than me, but I remember, yeah, I know what she describes when it was like it was just a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So when everything was good, I would be good, but then like the littlest thing, I just couldn't handle. Um, and what breathing did for me initially was helped regulate my nervous system, helps me
Hmm.
build up some like physiological and psychological resilience. Um, and along that journey to improving my breathing to help regulate my nervous system for my brain, I noticed like some real physical benefits.
Hmm.
Um, One instance, I in 4 weeks knocked a minute off my 20-minute 5K per PB, like running. So I'd got back into running. I'd run
Yeah.
20 minutes is it's not super fast, but it's reasonable. I've been trying to break 20 minutes for ages. Um, and then I came across the Oxford Vantage book and did a little bit of research and just tried to implement a few of the techniques into my running. And I was like 19 minutes.
Oh.
I was like when it was literally knocked pretty much just over a minute off the whole thing, and I was like, "Ooh, hold on." Breathing isn't just for brain health. Breathing is actually making me like run better. Almost like what else does it do?
Yeah.
At the time, I was working as a strength and conditioning coach. I'd retrained.
Yeah.
Well, I'd left my professional rugby career and went into strength and conditioning coaching. Was working a lot with Paralympic athletes towards like the Rio Games and the Tokyo Games, and started to integrate or just something I'd never done as a coach before was like look at look at how the athletes were breathing and never considered it for anything. So just started to implement certain bits into some of the athletes that were open to it and that I saw maybe there is some opportunity because they could breathe a little better in this area, in this area. Um, and it just sort of my I guess my career of coaching just snowballed really from there in that I still act and behave and I guess am a strength and conditioning coach by trade, but I was just seeing this whole piece of breathing and training the respiratory system has been completely overlooked. Like I got never no education in it through all of the sorts of different qualifications that I'd done, and it didn't really seem like anyone was doing it. So
Mhm.
I found it really sort of life changing for me, and I wanted to give that back. And so yeah, I started doing more with the athletes, and then particularly for rugby, I knew it was so important for rugby players, and I'd missed out on that opportunity. So I started to connect with some people that were still some players and coaches and physios that were still in the game. Um, yeah, and really just went from there. And um, now I don't really do an awful lot of what would be traditional strength and conditioning coaching. I do this weird thing of breathing, but it's gonna be it's because I saw it as just this is just the foundation before we do any of the other stuff. Like we need this foundation, and if we have this foundation, if I've got the biggest thing for me at the moment is if I have got an athlete who is able to better regulate themselves
Mhm.
in training, but also just through their normal day life, etc. They manage stress better, they manage anxiety better, they sleep better, their appetite, their digestion is better. And when we throw some physical challenges at them in training and maybe some psychological challenges through pressure in training, they've got more resilience to handle that work and the regulation of the nervous system. Nothing does it like breathing does
Mhm.
because they're almost like the same thing that your breathing creates. The HRV is one of the measures for recovery that we just mentioned a little earlier.
Yeah.
Your heart rate variability is like the little differences between heartbeats.
Okay.
And when that's like really stagnant, like always the same, that's like really low HRV, that's like really not good.
Right.
What's interesting about breathing, the difference between your inhales and exhale, as you breathe, inhale and exhale, your heart rate changes and your breathing creates this like variability in the heartbeats. So breathing is creating the nervous system sort of measurement that we take for recovery. Like breathing creates it. What's
Right.
crazy at the moment is that most people have no idea that's the case and don't then know. When you know that, you go, oh, well, that makes quite a lot of sense to go, I'm going to do something with my breathing to then influence that.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the athletes I've worked with, or before I worked with them, they maybe used to, religiously look at their HRV data, which would always tell them that they're tired because they're being trained hard,
Yes.
but they weren't giving any way of how do I improve it. So once
Yeah.
if no one gives you a way to improve it, only a way to measure it, you take it off, you don't wear it anymore
Yeah.
because I can't
Yeah.
influence it.
Thinking
What's
it
the point in?
stresses you out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually gonna impede.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, sorry, that was you asked me one very simple question about how I got into it, and I gave you
That's
my life
okay.
story. But yeah,
And there's so many directions I can go from that. So let's see. The first thing I want to ask you is about what it was like for you to go from being the athlete to being the recovering athlete. And like, what was that like for your mindset? I mean, obviously, yeah, like for
yeah,
youth athletes listening, like every athlete at some point is probably going to get injured in some way, shape, or
yeah,
form.
yeah.
And so how do we switch from putting all of our intention and energy and mental capacity into playing our sport and competing and all of that?
Mm.
How do we switch that into a totally different mindset of like healing ourselves? What was that like for you?
Um, yeah, interesting. I think it's a great question. I think that there's probably two different answers,
Yeah,
um, because it's a very different situation when the injury is career ending.
right.
There's
Yeah.
a lot rather than I'd been injured, I'd broken my shoulder,
Yeah.
um, scapula in two places, and disco MSH. I remember being out for like 4 months. I remember breaking my foot and being out for 3 months, and those periods are very different to a career-ending injury because in those periods it was like, right, it sucks being injured, and the first part of the injury is difficult when you can't really do much. And
Hmm.
interestingly, I do a lot of work now where we start laying good foundations with the breathing during that period because
Yeah.
psychologically that's good to have something productive to do whilst you can't really do much else for your
Right.
training.
Yeah.
But yeah, even when back then in the case it wasn't that, but it would be right. Okay, it sucks. I'm injured. Um, what can I do now? What are the opportunities now that I can work on that I wouldn't normally get the chance to work on to mean that when I come back, I'm going to be better than I was before. That sort of classic
Yeah.
um, mentality. Ironically, most of the time, everyone wants to do that, but we're rehabbing an injury, which means we're already like it's going to be more difficult to get back to where you were,
Right.
and we don't do anything different.
Mm.
So how can I be better than I was before if I'm coming off the back of an injury, which means I'm worse than before, and I'm not going to do anything different? And this is my sort of argument now when I'm talking with athletes where they want to start doing some work together as part of this rehab. It's like, well, that notion of you being better than you've ever been after this 6 month layoff, well, we can actually have good rationale to believe that might be the case because we're going to do some work on your breathing that you've never done before. We're going to do some breath holding for some lactate work that you've never done before. And if you're doing something you've never done before, we can create some new adaptations. So you could actually be better than pre-injury.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's just I'm just really just hoping that I'm going to be without actually doing anything different. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
Um,
sense.
the career-ending injury one is
Identity.
yeah, identity. I think for identity is a big issue. Um, I think though, I can only speak for my situation, which was when it's a brain injury, it's a little different because you just everything, your brain controls so much, right? Everything was hard. So when I finally could stay awake for the daylight hours,
Mm-hmm.
I was pumped. I was so grateful. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I can actually go for a walk for what, 20 minutes. I can go for a walk down to the village, come back, and not be exhausted enough to go back to bed.
Right.
It's still a long way from like living a
Yeah.
normal life and being able to have a job, but it was like, so because of how your brain injury affects everything that you're doing, from how you're thinking to how you're sleeping to just everything, um, you'll really end up just being grateful for any little wins, particularly
Mm,
when you weren't making much progress at the start.
yeah.
And it's probably, I mean, there'll be other injuries, but there's not many injuries where the doctors say to you, we hope you're going to make a full recovery.
Oh,
And you're like, okay. And then when you ask, well, how long is it going to take? And they say, I don't know. That's the difficult one because traditionally most of our other, particularly if you've got a musculoskeletal injury, we've got a
yeah.
good idea of like, okay, this is going to be 6 to 8 weeks, or this is going to be like 9 months. If it's a knee, like whatever, there's a bit of a ballpark figure to throw
Yeah.
at you. You have that timeline. When the timeline is, we don't know. Like that's difficult to deal with. Yeah, am I going to make a full recovery? I don't know. So ended up um, ended up being just very grateful for any of those sort of small
Mm,
little wins. And in being totally honest, I was going for a very difficult period where I wasn't getting many answers, and I was actually really scared that I
mm,
would go back onto the field and get injured again worse.
mm-hmm.
But to cut a long story short, after many months, a specialist with scans and was able to say, no,
Yeah.
you need to
Retire.
retire. And I was actually there was a huge, ironically, sigh of relief, which taking a big exhale like
Yeah.
that isn't actually great breathing, but a sigh. Everyone, if I say a sigh of relief, people know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll never forget the specialist. She was very aware that she was ending my like
Mm,
career.
yeah.
So she was very like, I'm really sorry type of thing to give you this news. And
Yeah.
I was there with the physio, and I remember being like, I just remember being almost like happy because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm glad you took this out of my hands because I didn't feel
Yes.
brave enough to actually. I should have just said, look, I know that I am not right, and this needs to. I've got to
Yeah.
do something else here.
Yeah.
So because of that dynamic, there wasn't. Um, I wasn't really thinking about my identity of not being a rugby player anymore. I wasn't really
Right.
thinking. I wasn't really thinking about much else other than like, I'm scared,
Yeah.
and I felt a bit trapped, and it was like I just was so grateful that eventually, after many many months, that it was starting to work its way out, and then even though we didn't have the answers to like, are you going to make a full recovery? How long is it going to take? Just having the answer of like, right now, like you're not playing, you're retiring, you're not playing professional rugby anymore. You're going over
Yeah.
here, and over here was like, well, what's over here? I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to do now?
Yeah.
So that was, I actually found that was very uplifting and exciting. That was very good for me. And I was lucky to have this period in my life where everything stopped and I was able to go, okay, what do I want to go and do? I mentioned
Mm,
off air, like I'd done a teacher training degree, so I'm a qualified science teacher. And it was like, do you want to go and be a science teacher? I was like, I don't think I want to. I don't. I'll do that if I can't do something a little more. For
fall
me,
back on
I'd
it.
spent so much time in professional sport. I felt like I'd learned so much. I'd played 13 years, over 300 games of professional rugby. I wanted to use that experience, and it
Hmm.
felt like staying in sport in some capacity. Um, and I loved the physical side of the training. I loved understanding how the body worked, and the strength and conditioning career seemed like
Yeah.
a, a good one for me.
Yeah, I love that. It's similar with me is, when I stopped being an elite athlete, I played volleyball,
Yeah,
and it kind of life took me in a little bit of a roundabout way, but now I'm back working with elite youth athletes,
yeah,
and it feels good to be giving back to athletes and be impacting the next generation of them, and all
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff, and just being curious about where life is going to take you and having it come back full circle.
Mm.
So You mentioned that you wish that you had learned these techniques and breath work
Oh,
when you were
100%.
younger.
Yeah, 100%. Or
Now,
even or even when I was old, but younger.
even when I was
I'm
old.
40, I'm 43 now. So if I learned them when I was 30, I'd have been happy, but 30
Yeah.
might some of the listeners might think 30 past it. And by the way, at 43, I feel physically, mentally, emotionally better than ever. I mean, I'd be terrible on a rugby field because I've got into more like endurance running.
Yes.
Yeah, my physical and mental capability to deal
Hmm.
with like physical challenge of like sport, exercise, endurance, or like whatever it is. Um, yeah, it's worlds apart.
So I don't know about you, but when
It
I
shouldn't be
was
the
like,
case, right? At 43, that shouldn't be the case at 43. Sorry, I'm jumping in, but it
no,
shouldn't
no,
be
it's
the
okay.
case at 43. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it
I
should be
should
the
be on my
case.
way
It
out.
usually isn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right. Like I think that more people like at, in their 40s should be like we now have the tools, the experience, the like all of these things that really we should be at the top of our game, but we're not. So I think
yeah,
that you're taking the path that more of us need to be taking. I'll aim to be like you. Uh,
yeah.
because I'm not in my
Don't
40s.
aim to be like me.
No,
Be you.
I'm curious though, because like when I was a teen athlete, like even thinking about doing like the warm up and the stretching and you go to physio and they make you do the freaking with the rubber band exercises for your shoulder and like all of these things. And in my head, I was always just rolling my eyes and
Yeah,
like, being the freaking teenager and how important is this? This is ridiculous. And not really understanding or caring about
yeah.
how important that was. And now in terms of breath work, like how do you or we
Mm.
talk to these youth athletes who really do kind of have that same mindset like okay,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
important is this,
Oh,
right? Like how do we
I
get them
I
past
remember I remember exactly what you're describing in terms of like warm up, cool down, and things. I
yeah,
remember being at like when you're younger, you're going up through your age groups, you get like picked for like representative teams, like
yeah,
regional teams, etc. And I remember being at a thing and they're going for the warm up, and it's like we do have I don't know what it's like now, but like back then we did a very poor job at making it helping a younger youth athlete understand why we're doing something that we're doing because we would give them something to do that they didn't need. In that, like, we'd stretch my hamstrings and I'd be like, can't feel anything. Stretch my quads, I can't feel anything. Like, I didn't need what was being given to me
yeah,
because I just didn't have that like tension in the system. I should have been doing like maybe some more dynamic stuff or whatever the thing I needed to be doing a warm up to mainly probably create good habits when I'm older.
hmm,
You just didn't feel. I remember being like 15. It was like it didn't feel like it made any difference whether I warmed up or cooled down or not.
yeah,
Um, and I remember classically for me, I never really got injured at all. Playing a contact sport like rugby is fairly, until I was about 24.
okay,
But then I would break a bone or have a bad injury every year. Boom, 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 boom. Um, and if you're not creating those good habits in how you look after yourself with your warm-ups, your cool downs, all the things, etc., then at some point it's going to undo itself.
hmm,
Um, and I think the finding something that they do want to get better at, etc. So it's like for breathing,
yeah,
do you like feeling out of breath? No.
no,
When we do like the hard fitness thing and you're like, you can't catch your breath, would you like to be able to manage that better? Like,
yeah,
yeah, okay, well, this is what we're going to try and do. And then I've got to do something with you that you feel a difference. And you go, huh, fair play, Jacko. I was a bit skeptical about this, but we did this shuttle run thing that I normally like, I'm like, there. And like, I did what you told me to do. And I
mhm,
managed that feeling of being out of breath way better. And how
yeah.
did that feel mentally? Well, I felt calmer. Okay, if you're calmer, how would that help you um, with your like your skill application or depending on your sport, what you're going to do. Oh, yeah, it's going to be better. Okay,
Yeah.
who's nervous before games? Who finds that actually under pressure they tense up and they make the most of their mistakes when they tense up under pressure, you
Hmm.
know? And that might not be everyone because some people love performing under pressure. And so we have to take as much an individualized approach as
Hmm.
we can, but find these little areas. So for breathing, find these little areas where they do want to get an improvement from, and I can make a direct link of how breathing would help that, and then give them the experience of it. Okay, try doing this.
Yeah.
Do you feel less nervous? Yes. Okay, now go and do, we've got to do, and that's the thing that's nice with breathing. It's going to do something straight away. Because
Right.
every time you're breathing, everything's changing constantly.
Yeah. So if like, would you let me rewind, let me try it again. Is there a technique that you would be able to share with us today on the podcast that
Yeah,
might,
for sure.
let's do it.
Yeah. Like for like calming nerves,
Sure. Yeah.
or like, okay, well, let's just do like something that's just foundational to everything. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and I'm not necessarily talking about the highest intensity exercise that you do, but I'm talking about when you can manage it, and I'm talking about the easy parts of your training, the recovery bits in your training where you're standing still, and then all of your breathing when you're not at training.
Okay.
Particularly if you get nervous, this we're going to want to do in the lead up, even if it's just 1 minute before you go into training. Yeah. And if we instill good control of breathing rate and good breathing mechanics and have our airway set up correctly, which involves like your nose, your tongue, and your neck, then it might be that you focus on your breathing whilst if you're a football player, like whilst I'm putting my boots on. Like it
Hmm.
doesn't, you don't have to sit in the change room and go in front of everyone. Like this is the type of thing that no one would actually know that you're doing it any different. Okay. So these are foundational for everything that we're going to do. In an order of importance, if we have your tongue relaxed at the bottom of your mouth
Okay.
and breathe up your nose, you'll find that you activate your upper chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, your rib cage wants to go up because you're breathing up your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, interestingly, there you go, little
Oh, you have a
interestingly,
diagram?
yeah,
Yes.
right. So air doesn't go up your nose anyway.
Right.
The air doesn't go to your brain. Air
Yeah.
goes backwards to your airway, which is like this pipe here, because it's got to get to your lungs. If I asked anybody to point to their lungs, they wouldn't point up here. They'd point. Everyone knows their lungs are down
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the most efficient part of your lungs is low down,
Okay.
and that's where your diaphragm is at the bottom of the rib cage. So when I breathe up my nose and activate my upper chest, I'm not filling up the lungs efficiently.
Right.
Yeah, so if I'm doing something inefficiently, like breathing, I'm going to have to do it faster.
Okay. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
and when I'm doing it faster and from the upper chest, the feedback that gives to my brain by nervous system about my state is more of like upregulation or stress, anxiety, rather than cool, calm, collected.
Okay.
So the other thing you'll notice when I did that demonstration, I breathe up my nose and activate my upper chest. You can
Hmm.
also hear it.
Yeah.
It's coming much faster. Yeah. When the breath is coming fast, it will always end up being shallow.
Right.
So some of the things that are going to help. One, major important muscle, your tongue.
Okay.
It's connected. Your tongue is a muscle. A lot of people forget that. So we can train it. It's really important. The other important muscle that is connected to your tongue
Yeah.
is your diaphragm, which is down here underneath the bottom of your rib cage.
Okay.
Those two things are connected by fascia. So there's a connection. Your tongue, um, influences how open your airway is.
Okay.
The muscles of your tongue are connected to all the muscles in your throat, your neck, and the airway. If, for example, if you put put a couple of fingers underneath, we don't have any double chins here, but if we had a double chin, where it would be, right? So put your
Mm-hmm.
fingers there, relax, then push your tongue to the roof of the mouth as hard as you can,
Mm.
and you feel that muscle kick in.
Yeah.
You'd even feel, if you really push the tongue up and spread it across the palate, you'd feel it on the sides of your jaw as well. The muscle,
Okay.
your tongue affects your jaw and affects your airway, and your position of your jaw will directly influence the openness of your airway. The position of your tongue and the muscle tone of your tongue will directly influence it. Okay, so
Yeah.
one of the things we like to teach people about the tongue that's really important is make this noise. Come closer to the camera. I want to see that tongue. Yeah. So you got to make a clicking noise. Can't hear it.
You can't. Okay,
Are
hold
you
on.
clicking? Oh, maybe the
It's
mic.
because the microphone's not near me. Okay.
Can you hear my click? Yeah.
Yes, clearly. Can you
Cool.
hear
You
mine?
do one.
It feels like it's only coming from one side. I can't make
Yes,
it come
maybe
from the
it's
middle.
difficult to pick it up. Right. But you're gonna do it in slow-mo. And watch before it pings off, it's suctioned.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
That suction seals the tongue to the roof of the mouth.
Okay.
Really important for the positioning of the tongue.
I'm gonna have
So
to
if you make,
practice that.
yeah, if you make the ticking noise and then slow it down. Ah, there it was. Just before it pings off, then keep it there. And then you got to try and open it wider, but with the tongue suctioned up. So before it pings off, hmm,
Okay, people, you need to watch this on
yeah, you
YouTube.
need to watch. Yeah,
Hilarious.
one way to check whether you've managed to get the suction or not. One thing you're going to see, if you can see on your, I can see me and you on my video. If you can see you as well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you want to see that nice stringy thing in the middle, yeah. And
I don't.
then
Mm-hmm.
if it's suctioned,
Mm-hmm.
if you pinch your nose and try and breathe in through your mouth,
Oh, I
if
can.
it's yes, so if you can't, then you've sealed it to the roof of the mouth. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really have one of those
How
things.
wide can you keep it suctioned and open your mouth wide? Is that it suction? I just can't see it. It's difficult to see on your. Yeah, that's good, good, good. Yeah. What sometimes people will find it very hard to open their mouth because the tongue's really tight.
Yeah.
And just that as an exercise is very good to suction it, open as wide as you can, keep it there for like 5 to 10 seconds. Where you try and open your mouth wider, it's stretching the bottom, but it's working the strengthening to actually keep it suctioned up, so that you're working the strength of the tongue and creating a little bit of length through it. Okay, and then when you do that for 10 seconds, you're like, oh, my tongue feels tired,
Mm-hmm. And
but it
even
helps.
here.
Yeah. So now put your tongue to the roof of the mouth. So that's suction, but just really gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Lips together. So you feel like there's just some suction keeping the tongue up there, but not you're not trying hard. It's just there on its own.
Mm-hmm.
All of the tongue, not just the front, all of the tongue to the roof of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then rather than breathing up your nose, you try and breathe backwards because that's where air's going to go. And if I have my tongue up and I breathe back, if I felt my chest and felt my belly area, my abdomen area, when I breathe back with the tongue up, I feel my diaphragm activate.
Yeah.
When I have my tongue relaxed at the bottom of the mouth and breathe up my nose, I feel I can't but help lift my rib
Yeah.
cage up. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're breathing more with your diaphragm, filling the lungs from the bottom where it's
Mm.
more efficient to get the air and oxygen.
Okay.
That, though, because the distance from your airway to your chest is much smaller than the distance from your airway down to the bottom of your lungs. That
Right.
distance for the air to travel is going to take time. So you have to be able to breathe a little slower.
Okay.
Something that's really nice to do, you have your tongue up, you breathe back, but you breathe quietly so that you can't even, can you make it silent? So you feel you're breathing back, so you feel your diaphragm low down a little bit,
Mhm.
but because it's quiet, it's like it's soft and it's gentle and it's calm. When breathing's calm, we calm the nervous system.
Mm,
So if I'm aware of that, those, so tongue up, breathe back, breathe quietly, those three things, if I'm aware of those three things throughout my day a few times, and I'm just honing good habits, that will become normal and natural. That's how you're supposed to breathe. But
mhm.
then equally, if I'm getting ready for training and I'm feeling a bit nervous, or getting ready for a game, a competition, I'm getting a bit nervous, if I hone in and become aware of my breathing, I might notice that, oh, I can actually hear it 'cause it's a bit faster. It feels a little bit more in my chest, and
Right.
that's making me feel a bit anxious.
Yeah.
Now, rather than that just creating a snowballing effect of just more sort of nerves, you can take control of that. And you go, right, I'm going to get my tongue up. I'm going to breathe back so I can feel my diaphragm. I'm going to start to try and slow my breathing down and make it gradually quieter and quieter. And if you um, really want to emphasize a little bit of like bringing the nerves down, extending the exhale a little bit. When we
Mm,
extend our exhale, the heart rate comes down. It's more parasympathetic, means like the fancy word for like the relaxation or the rest digest response. So if I'm feeling a little upregulated, a little anxious, a little bit like too much energy, and I
hmm.
want to bring myself back down, I'm definitely going to get control of calm breathing. That calms the nervous system. And I'm going to try to just extend, just slow down my exhales a little bit.
Hmm.
So what makes me feel comfortable? What makes me feel like okay, I feel calm. I feel ready to take on this challenge.
I appreciate the fact that you just taught us that because
No worries.
serious, because youth who come through my program, they come to me because they are struggling with anxiety, performing under pressure, like all of this stuff. And one of the tools that I give them is like kind of bringing yourself into present moment and just going into a neutral place, doing like a 5 to 1, right? Like five things you see, four things you,
Yeah,
and then the one is always like a deliberate breath. And I've been like, telling them and showing them to the best of my abilities to like
yeah,
fill up kind of like your bottom half first and then that. But
yeah,
I didn't know the tongue piece. And so
yeah,
now I'm gonna be able to actually like guide them better on how to do that. That's
yeah.
great.
And one of the great things about the breath is if you think of any meditation practice, regardless of like where it's come from, chances are the start of it is going to be start by being aware of your breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be about manipulating breathing, but be aware of your breathing because every breath is happening in the moment that is happening. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can't take my next breath before I've taken this one. And so when I think about my breathing right now, it makes me I can't not be present. So it
Right.
is a great tool for bringing that presence and that mindfulness in.
Yeah.
It's just your breath that's there inside of you all the time.
So when we're like focusing on our breathing and breath work in many different ways, does that ultimately in the end also give us more energy?
Um, I guess interesting question. I'm trying to be like super factually correct rather than just going, oh yeah. Um, because breathing, there's a few, and this is where some of um, the overlooking of the respiratory system and the sort of, dismissive approach to training it. Because if I answer that question in um, are you getting more oxygen in
Hmm.
to give us more energy? Um, it would be difficult to quantify that. One of the things that when you breathe more efficiently, one of the things that you do is we can prove this with data that we can measure, and it's been seen in studies. If we ventilate more efficiently, so I breathe more efficiently, like I've tried to show you as one little example, filling up the lungs more effectively, being in control of my breathing rate, I'll extract more oxygen per breath.
Hmm.
So I to get the same amount of oxygen into my blood and into my tissues, I wouldn't have to breathe as much air in total. So breathing can be easier. So what I would then do is, you're making me answer this question really well now.
Mhm.
Because, and if I don't have to breathe as much air, I breathe like, I can breathe 50 liters of air every minute rather than 100 or whatever it is. I can breathe less air, but get the same amount of oxygen in. I'm spending less energy on the act of breathing.
Okay.
So breathing can take something like, if it's really good, like as low as like 10% of energy expenditure up to like 30% of energy expenditure. So it's not really a fair word, but people know what I mean if I said like, you can end up wasting energy on breathing. You're
Right.
breathing too much because you're not doing it very efficiently. Like I can show you data, like proven data on that. And then other things in terms of energy, often one of the things with exercise is our perceived exertion. So how hard I feel I'm working is influenced more with breathing than we previously thought. And our breathing rate tracks perceived exertion better than heart rate data and better than lactate data.
Okay.
It's way better. They're only starting to realize this now in the research. What's
Okay.
challenging is how to measure someone's breathing rate if they're during their exercise, but they're starting to develop devices to do that now.
Hey there. Quick pause to say thank you. If you're listening right now, you're already a part of something powerful. We're here to help young athletes and their families build grit, resilience, and purpose, and your support makes that possible. Did you know that over half of podcast listeners never hit follow? That one click actually helps us grow, get bigger, and reach more people who need to hear this. So if you're enjoying this episode, please hit follow or subscribe. It's free, it takes a second, and it really does mean the world to us. Now, back to the show.
You can be aware of your own breathing and know
Yeah.
when it's going fast. And, one of the things you will notice is when I'm breathing better and I'm better in control of my breathing rate, I feel calmer. Like cognitively, that will help with my decision making, my peripheral vision, my focus, my concentration, but also my perceived effort is lower. I could be running at the same speed, but it
Hmm.
feel easier when I'm breathing well because my breathing's calmer. I'm not breathing as fast. Whereas when you're
Right.
breathing faster, your brain perceives that as a higher effort, even if it isn't.
Hmm.
And so that might feel like I've got more energy, but
Right.
have you actually technically got more actual energy? And there's a lot of things go into the energy equation, but
Right.
I'm trying to give you a rounded answer that hopefully someone can't pick holes in because I've just gone, oh yeah, it gives you more energy. Like because where's
Yes.
energy
Yes.
come from? It's coming from like your food and your diet and all these things as well. But
Yeah.
perceived exertion and how much energy you spend on breathing are two really key things that we can influence straight away with breathing better.
Okay. I think that was a good answer.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. You
I-
made me think about it. I wouldn't. You made me think about it differently.
There we go. Perfect. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
What else do you think that the listeners need to hear about breathwork or about, really anything? What do you
Well,
think is important?
you've given me another. There's a third one to throw into the mix about energy, which would be interesting.
Okay.
The If I can appropriately upregulate my nervous system when I need to, that can also give me an increase in energy, like or how I feel energetic. And some of the breath holding protocols we do help with increasing sympathetic activity, which
Oh,
is
okay.
upregulation. So they can be really good in warm ups, particularly if I'm feeling particularly sluggish.
Yeah.
But this is where we have to understand this balance or my arousal curve of like, with my breathing, I've got tools to upregulate myself. And
Yeah.
if you're someone that's always really nervous, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, why would I ever want to upregulate myself? Well, so you've got
Yeah.
the tools to bring yourself back down. But
Right.
ultimately, we're trying to create an educated athlete that, oh, this is my philosophy. Like, we're trying to create an educated athlete that understands themselves, so they
Yeah.
understand where they are on that arousal curve. And one of the things that's going to tell you where you are in it is your breathing,
Hmm.
how fast you're breathing, where you're breathing from will tell you like how sort of stressed, upregulated you are, as well as your own feelings of, say, nerves or anxiety. But when I'm going into a competition or an event or a race or a thing, like it's it makes total sense to have those feelings. So we also shouldn't be always trying to like get rid of them and dampen them. And now I can speak from experience. I was always nervous before I played games, and I didn't have the tools to manage it.
Hmm.
It's one thing. With breathing, I would have had much better tools. But even saying all of that, um, once you retire and you don't ever have that anymore, you miss them. It's like, oh,
Yes.
I don't, I'd like to get nervous. I mean, now I've got the tools, mate. I'd love to get like
Mm.
pre-game and like play. Anyway, but under an athlete understanding where I am and what tool do I need to use for me in this current situation. Do I need to help regulate myself a little better? Do I need to bring myself up? And if I am somebody that at the start needs a lot of like down regulation or calming to and managing my nerves, what I'd like to see over time is that we help create a better balanced, regulated nervous system an individual and athlete, which is
Mm.
all of them, like training and at home and everything else that goes in.
Yeah.
But better if I'm better regulated, then I can start to play at this other end of where I like actually get my nervous system ramped up. That's going to
Hmm.
give me some performance benefits because I'm coming to this place better balanced. And if things do get a bit too, nervous, I've got some simple tools to bring myself back down. So I feel more in control. And when we
Mm.
feel in control, that breeds confidence in us. That's so important for managing, high stress situations and being able to perform under pressure. That's one of the big parts of my work,
Yeah.
for sure.
I love that today so many times we said the word tools
Yeah,
and I love also that you brought in the confidence, right? Because if we are really as athletes or high achieving humans or anything like that, if we want to be confident and we want to be sure of ourselves, then a way to do that is to gain as many tools as we can in order to, like you're saying, like in, oh, this situation, oh, wait a minute, I have a tool for that, hold on,
yeah.
boom.
And
Right. And
I think it's really important. This is one of the big, like a thing that had been missing for me in my career and thinking of when I was younger.
mhm.
Um, I've got not only do I need to have that tool, I've got to have an experience of that tool positively influencing the thing I want it to do.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So if I give someone a tool
Yeah.
and it doesn't really, they don't feel that if it's a tool to like help them calm their nerves, and either maybe they don't practice it and then they
Mhm.
just get to that nervous situation, then they can't really use the tool because they're just too nervous.
Yes.
Then they don't have the experience of the tool helping, so then I'm not going to then be able to like actually utilize it. And I think the other thing about confidence, I was talking about this recently actually, about coaches when we were younger and whatnot. I would someone that was told, "Oh, you're a confidence player," and it was like, okay, cool. Um, so if that was the case, if you, I would almost be like, "Well, doesn't everyone play better when they're confident?" Like,
Hmm.
um, and then even taking all that aside and going like, okay, so you as a coach have told me that I'm a confidence player. Um, what are you doing to build my confidence? You just told
Mm.
me I play better when I'm confident, but you're then doing nothing to
Right.
help build up my confidence.
Mm.
Almost saying it to me like it's a bad thing. Oh, you're a confidence player. Oh, you're only going to play well when you're confident. Well, maybe I don't buy into that, but let's just say I do.
Hmm.
If you believe that and you're my coach, shouldn't you be trying to do everything you can to make me confident because you said that I'm going to play well when I'm confident?
Hmm.
And yeah, little bugbear for me. I'm just
No,
pouring
I
my heart out.
agree.
But I'm hopeful that like I'm sure there'll be someone listening that's had
Yeah.
that type of experience, and it's
Yeah.
like, coach is telling me something, but if
Yeah.
they're not doing it, if they're not giving me or helping me like to do something about it,
Hmm.
what's even the point in telling me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I wish when I was younger, here's my advice actually for the, I wish when I was younger, I would stand up for myself a little bit more, believe in myself a little bit more, and not, it doesn't have to be done in a confrontational way, but to go, to just to push back a little bit and go, okay, so what makes you think I'm a confidence player? Give me
Mm.
some, give me, give me a reason. Give me something more factual rather than just your opinion. And then if we agree that that's the case, okay, what are we going to do? What's our plan? Because you're my
Yeah.
coach, we'll do this together. What's our plan to make sure we build my confidence?
Yeah.
It's going to take it's a very mature, measured answer, but I would just encourage people to believe in themselves and not challenge because you can make people upset if you're just constantly challenging coaches. But I think it's in just a fair, measured way, just asking for proof's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like almost like for some proof of like you're saying that about me or my game or how I perform. Like, well,
Yeah.
how
How?
do we do something about it? And
Yeah. I need a how and a what.
yeah, is there actually any proof of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think confidence comes too from like continually showing up for yourself and doing the thing. And
Yeah,
so if you want to have confidence with the tools that we're giving you, then like you said, practicing them daily and having that build that muscle of doing it so that when you need it, it's an easy transition and that you're confident in yourself or you're
yeah,
confident in yourself because you continually show up and do the hard thing. You practice at 6 in the morning or you give up your social life or in order to be
mm,
the best you can be at your sport
yeah,
and all
yeah,
of these things. And yeah, 100% such a huge thing that I actually talk to my athletes about as well as advocating for themselves to their coaches.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Because
a mistake I would have made, and I think it comes with experience probably, and maybe maturity, and it took me a long time to mature, but I would put my almost belief in the coaches and the sports, particularly the way my sport was done as you were growing up. There would be, scouts or your coaches watching and picking the team, but then for a representative side or progressing, there'd be a scout or there'd be selectors, and I was putting my belief and my happiness in their hands. What did
yeah,
they think of me?
yeah,
Rather than, and I understand that why that's the case because it does matter because they're going to pick the team, but the real crux of my belief needs to be in me and here, and um, I need to soul search to the point where you do believe what you believe and don't let that get faltered or influenced um, by other people. Because if I had the mentality and the belief that I do now at 43 to when I
mm,
was like 18, my whole career would have been different.
yeah,
But it's difficult to get that. I think it's difficult to get that when you're younger, but I can't encourage it enough.
yeah. I agree with that 100%. Jacko, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Like
My
for
pleasure.
coming on here, you've dropped so much wisdom. I love that we walked through an exercise. Please look at that so you're not just hearing the weird clicks and
Have a look at your mouth. If anyone wants to have a look inside your mouth.
I was like trying to find my way to the camera. That was hilarious. Oh my God. So fun. Thank you for I want to acknowledge you for working on yourself and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and in a fun way too, so that it's easy for people to gain these skills and an understanding of how to really tap into our potential. So thank you so much.
Thank you for seeing that in me. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, until next time, train your mind, build your grit, and forge your legacy. Ciao.
You've been listening to Forged Youth. New episodes drop every week, so if this hits home for you, throw us a follow and subscribe. Forged Youth, where resilience is trained.